All right, thanks, Pete. All right, let's get started with the third of our topics for part one of our day together. This is called super results. Now, if you have not achieved something that's important to you yet, that does not disqualify you from being able to achieve it in the future. What does disqualify you are the three big fears. The fear that you're unworthy or insufficient in some way. The fear that if you do this, you'll be alone or unloved. Or the fear that you're not safe, that you don't have what you need and that you can't trust others to support you. And all of these fears are fears of insufficiency. And the truth is that any one of them can stop us, but most of us have all three going on in some way or another. So when you choose to venture out and try something new, the mind immediately steps in and tries to protect you from failing. It looks at your history, it looks at where you're going, and it says, wait. Stop for a moment. We got a problem going on here. Let me give this to you in a little chart. If you could imagine this chart built with the vertical axis being your access to resource and the horizontal axis being time going by. Essentially, you can be pretty darn clear about what you need to do in the near term. What are the next immediate steps that you need to take in order to get where you would like to go? You could attend this program, you can get a hold of the Paraliminals, you can start establishing the goals that you need. All of those steps, very near term, great, easy for you to do. You also have a pretty good idea of long term. Well, what's it going to look, sound, and feel like when you're there? Great, you've got a good representation of it, you can imagine it. Now you're going to step up to that threshold and look over this gap between where you are now and where you have to go. And there are a lot of steps in there that you don't have any clue. And then literally, no idea how it's really going to be possible for you to get there. So the future looks like an unknown. And for most of us, we look at our history and try to think, well, what can I put between here and there? What strategies can I use that have already proven to be successful? Even though they haven't worked here, can I do them again? Can I try them differently? What could happen? And in that unknown, what will happen is that the mind will tend to project images, feelings of lack and limitation. So essentially the three big fears, right? And as you step up to that threshold, now I'm about ready to leave the known and head into the unknown. This is where something kicks in. Researchers are calling it the immunity to change. We have built in us a system that prevents us from falling into the abyss. It's an immune system to having change occur. So when the mind kicks in this way, essentially what it's doing is it's trying to pull us back from the edge. Now, have you ever had the experience of being in a tall office building, skyscraper of some kind, all glass, floor to ceiling, and you walk right up to the edge of that glass, put your forehead on it and peer down? Have you ever done that? Do you notice the effect that it has in your body? Immediately you tense up a little bit. Well, why is that? It's a very interesting phenomenon. When you look over the edge of something like that, the vestibular system wants to keep you on a flat plane. It's all oriented toward flat planes, these floors, right? So it's oriented keeping you that, and if suddenly the floor goes like that, the body has a feeling like it's pitching over the edge, like you're gonna leap. It's a really weird sensation. A lot of people develop what we call a phobia of heights, a fear of heights, because they think they're gonna pitch themselves over. And of course, what's the image at the end of that, right? Splat. So a lot of people would just assume like back away from the edge. Well, that's what the nervous system is designed to do. Keep you safe. Come back from the edge. Don't go there, don't go there. Ooh, back up. this change, what might happen, you might get proven that you're unworthy, you might be alone, you might fail, you're not safe. And so all of these sorts of things actually start coming into the mind. Automatically, spontaneously, it's not a defect, it's actually a built-in protection mechanism. So if I have a board, say, 1.5 feet wide, 18-inch board, running the length of this floor, I could walk from one edge of that board to the other edge, could be 50 feet long, wouldn't be a problem for me at all. Now, if I suspend that board 50 stories over an abyss, 50 stories straight down on either side of 18 inches, what my mind is going to have a tendency to do is say, oh, I could never do that. Well, why? You could do it if it's on the floor. Why could you not do it? It's the exact same board. Because it's what the mind throws in and projects into the future. Now, it's an interesting thing to realize that the physiological response to fear and the physiological response to excitement are identical, virtually every way. The adrenaline, the heart pumping, all of that stuff, it's all the same neurophysiology occurs. The difference is what the mind does. So a fear is excitement with a disaster at the end of it. Whereas excitement is just, wow, I'm going to finally get to that thing I've always wanted. This is so great. Well, hopefully that what you're getting from all of this is that you really must use your mind in a way that connects you with resources and projects possibilities into the abyss, into the unknown future. And so instead of seeing the future as a foreboding and dark unknown, think of it as a fertile unknown. It's a place of possibility. And then allow your mind to help you embody the success that you need. And I've got a good example here of a client said, so one of the things that I got from Paraliminals was I was putting aside self-doubt. It was all those doubts that I had prior to that, they were vaporizing. She said, I had very low self-esteem and did not believe in myself. I also had the urge to lead at my workplace. But you have to be willing to step out of the box. You have to stop worrying about what others think, and you have to be willing to lead in order to be a leader. So I had this drive to lead, but I didn't have the self-confidence and the self-esteem to actually fulfill that. So I used the Paraliminals to gain self-confidence. And as I used the Paraliminals, I actually became aware of the fact that self-esteem was an issue. Because I'm an extrovert, I'm outgoing. I wasn't aware that I had self-esteem issues. But I used the Paraliminals, then I started becoming aware of the things that I could then turn around, and I used Paraliminals to take care of that. That then allowed me to put aside things that were holding me back and to become, in many ways, who I was always meant to be. She said, but without Paraliminals, I was never going to achieve it. And so this idea that the fact that you haven't gotten it up until now doesn't disqualify you. The resources are within you, and it's a matter of connecting with those. Now, we grew up understanding the world from the standpoint of Newtonian physics, which is a world of causing effects. And when you look at the effect you want and you think, how am I going to cause that to occur? It's easy to see you've got no clue. I have no way to know how I'm going to cause that. Well, here's a really important bit of information. There's another type of physics that we're actually tapping into when we're working with the non-conscious. This is called quantum physics. Now, in studies on quantum physics, Essentially, they're looking at subatomic particles. And one of the demonstrations that they did is they had a piece of gold foil at the end of a particle accelerator, and they're going to shoot this subatomic particle through that gold foil. And here's the weird thing. The foil opened up before the particle passed through it. In other words, the effect preceded the cause. Right now, think about your life. Think about the creation of anything. You look around here in the Minnetonka Center of the Arts. This is student work that's here. I will guarantee you that before those students went to class, they believed they were not artists. They wanted to be, but they could easily convince themselves, wow, I've never drawn anything more than a stick figure. I'll show you a piece that I did a little later on too, because I had that belief. I took a class here and I was impressed. I don't know if you will be, but I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. So here's the idea that the thought, the possibility, the effect that I'm looking for must precede anything that would cause it to occur. If it doesn't exist first in consciousness, how could it exist in the real life? Any of these sculptures, they had to exist in the consciousness of the artist before it came about, right? Makes sense. Well, that's the quantum physical world, that the effect has to precede the cause. So here's what I'm going to invite you to consider. A tree comes from a seed. But I will guarantee you could dissect that seed and not find a single oak plank in that acorn. You cannot find a maple branch in that maple seed. You can't find it anywhere. It doesn't have the resources to make the tree. The seed is a blueprint. And what it does is it organizes the resources around it so that the tree can emerge. So when you see a seed, on the far end of the emerging future is the tree, right? And if you apply this to the concept of your own life, essentially this is what has to happen. You have to begin to use your mind in a way that will produce the super results that you're going for. And when I say super, I mean supernatural compared to what you may have been able to produce up until now. So let's do a little exercise right now, if we would. I want you to think of a fear that you have. It's one that you know when you get up to the threshold of some new possibility, you want to step back off that threshold, right? It's where the immunity system kicks in. Think of a fear that you have, and then identify, well, what type is it? Of the three big fears, is it about unworthiness, that you're not good enough? Is it a fear of being alone or excluded or unloved by your social system because you just stepped out? Or is it that you're unsafe, that you don't think you have the resources or the support that you're going to need to be able to get it? So think of a fear and then think of which of the types that is. Now we're going to do a little closed eye process with that. I want you essentially to become the gold foil, and I want you to imagine that future success. So if you would, like we have in the past, take a moment to sit back, relax, take a deep breath in. Exhale, close your eyes, let your shoulders drop. Let the muscles of your face smooth out. Notice the rhythm and flow of your breath. Feel it in your nostrils. And imagine going to a place in your future where you have achieved something that you truly desire, something that your fears have held you back from, that out of that fear you've given up on that dream or that possibility. So now imagine that future possibility for yourself. And I invite you to actually imagine floating up and traveling to that future time, going all the way forward in your life to that time, whenever it is, whether it's a week from now or 3 years from now, doesn't matter, just whatever time frame you feel is good. Imagine floating down and being at that place, having already achieved what it is you have always wanted. And as you see it through your own eyes, feel it in your own body. And hear in your own mind that positive voice, that supportive voice of your own internal dialogue. It's congratulating you on having achieved it at long last. You've gotten there. Notice how good it feels. And as you turn to look to the past, you'll notice that you've crossed an abyss. You've crossed the unknown, and that there were events along the way that allowed you to get here. Look back over that trajectory, over that timeline of your life to see a few of the significant shifts, a few of the important changes, realizations, actions that allowed you to succeed. And once again, here in this future time, place, feeling good about having accomplished what you set your mind to, gently float up and go back in time to the present moment, knowing that that seed has been planted and the causes of the effect that you desire are already coming to you as resources to help you accomplish what you've set your mind upon. And hold the snapshot in your mind, that feeling in your heart, that knowing you can have what you truly choose and focus your energy toward. Once again, in this present moment, feeling the relaxation of your shoulders, relaxation in the muscles of your face, noticing the rhythm and flow of the breath in your nostrils. Gently open your eyes, maintaining that flow. Bring yourself back, refreshed, alert, revitalized, in tune with life, feeling good. All right, so hopefully one of the things that you're getting from me is it's beneficial to drop in and really reinforce for yourself the value of having these images, these feelings, these encouraging, positive ideas, reinforcing what it is you're creating. And really, to make this effortless on a daily basis, Paraliminals are available to you. What we've been talking about in producing super results has really been about getting your thinking and feeling to be in alignment with one another. One of the Paraliminals that really helps with this is called focus and concentration. This is the ability to recognize that if you think, oh, I just need my life to be better, there's no focus to it. There's no way that you can actually direct your energy. There's no measured end result that you can move towards. And so I would like to invite you to consider the power of a mind which has a laser focus to it. And I'd like to do a little demonstration and have Wendy come up front. There's two pieces of paper, if you would hold this for a moment. What I'm going to do, and can you zoom in on this? I'm going to push this pen through this piece of paper. Okay, now you might notice that I did it with the blunt end of my pen. And the hole isn't particularly pretty. It was a lot more effort.
We'll be framing that one.
And then now I'm going to use the fine point of it. You got it? Now to put this through the piece of paper is actually pretty easy. It's easy on me. It's a nice clean one. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. You see, the idea is that the mind focused, the thought becomes a power in and of itself. When it's diffuse, when there is no clear direction for that energy to go, it takes a lot more effort, it's a lot more difficult. One of the questions I addressed earlier is, what if I have a lot of outcomes? Fine, it's great, list them all out. Now let's pick one and let's work on it in a specific way today. For why? Why this one? Because in your life you've decided that for right now this is a good one to work on. And it may be that one of the things that you're choosing to work on, like the story I told earlier about a woman who wanted to lead, she had self-doubt. She used paraliminals to overcome her self-doubt. She realized she had self-esteem, so she works on self-esteem. Now, what did that do? That helped her in many areas of her life, in her relationships, in her energy, in her leadership, in a lot of areas of her life. So one goal focused on today could have significant impact in many areas. But pick one that you would like to do, just like we did a few moments ago. Pick one that we can focus on for this moment. Now there's another paraliminal, and that's called personal genius. And I find this one is probably one of the biggest ones for starting any major new endeavor in life. Because a lot of times what happens is people disqualify themselves rather than being in what we would call the beginner's mind. That ability to say, okay, this is a new endeavor. I have never done this before. I don't know what it's going to take to be there, but I know that I have a genius learning ability within me. I was born as a brilliant learner. I have the ability to learn what it takes to get where I want to go. I know many people that say, well, I might not be a very fast learner, but I'm thorough. If I can't do it at first, I'm going to learn what it takes to be able to accomplish it. So whatever you set your mind upon, the personal genius is going to be a great way for you to actually make progress. So those are going to help you get your thinking and your feeling lined up in alignment. The next thing for producing super results is going to be that your intention, what you intend, what you really choose, and your behavior are congruent. In other words, you're walking your talk. You're doing the thing that you said you're going to do. You're staying on it regardless of what happens in your outer circumstances. And so there are 3 paraliminals that work really great around this, depending upon what specifically it is you're trying to accomplish. One is called peak performance. When you know what it is that you have to do, you have to get up, you have to do this thing, you have to perform at that event, great. Peak performance is going to help you so that your intention and your behavior line up. You're going to be able to follow through and accomplish what you desire. Another one is called sales leap. A sales leap was being used by people in the performing arts before I came out with peak performance, which focuses on peak performance in other areas. Sales leap is specifically designed to help you for peak performance in any sales interaction. So, for example, there are many components on a sales cycle like prospecting, cold calling, making an initial presentation, handling objections, and being able to ask for the close, and then being able to service the account once a sale has been consummated. So at any one of those points in the sales cycle, you can say, oh, you know, I'm pretty good at this, but I really fall down on that. Well, here comes a new opportunity. Listen to the sales leap, and you're going to be able to get yourself on target. Earlier, I talked about an insurance agent who became a top performer within the company and built 3 top performing teams. Sales leap was a regular part of what he was doing. Super important. You'll ask salespeople who have used it, they'll tell you, not only is it a great way to show up whenever you need to, fully refresh, recharge, focus, and ready to go, but you've got your energy there, and you've got a belief in yourself that you can make this happen. Again, it's your intention and your behavior coming together. And the third one I'll talk about is what's called power thinking. And this is something that Bob Proctor and I did together. And I'd like to play you the introduction that Bob makes to this program called Power Thinking. I think I have a little bit of my introduction to that I wanted to read to you, but I'm not sure I know where that is. Oh, here it is. So in my introduction, I say that the way we think leads to the results we produce. As we mature, we settle into habits of thought that serve our current aspirations, but they may develop into mental barriers that prevent us from accomplishing future goals. So let's go to Bob and let's hear what he has to say in this introduction.
Through all our interactions with the world, we develop an understanding that guides our thinking, our perceptions, memories, intuition, imagination, and reason. Our habitual ways of thinking and feeling about the world provide the foundation for the ways we act and express ourselves, resonate with others, and attract to us the results that we achieve. When the outcomes we get are not what we truly want, developing control over our mental habits enables us to reshape the way we think and feel, and by doing so, we move beyond our current circumstances. In this session, you will engage new tools for thinking that increase your insights. By mastering your habits of thought, you enhance your well-being and change the results you create.
All right, well, do you get that idea? This is a powerful way in which you can begin to step beyond the threshold of what's been known to you up until now. You can step into the unknown, realizing that your thinking and your feeling, that your intention and your behavior are going to be there to support you in getting where you want to go. Now, before we go to Pete, I'd like to ask Wendy if there are any questions that may have emerged during our session.
We have only one, so you've done a phenomenal job.
I have somebody who says that they tried to bridge too big a gap several times in a row, significant financial losses, and they've lost the capacity to distinguish between fear and excitement. Feel like they have no poker chips to play anymore, they're not willing to gamble big, and they become reactive instead of proactive. So between a rock and a hard place. Suggestions, please?
Yes. The idea that you have referred to as being between a rock and a hard place is an important one. It's actually the topic of another session that we're going to get to in a little bit. But I'd like to address that idea of having had repeated failures, okay? To me, this is the message that's coming through. When Pipis and I began building Learning Strategies Corporation into where we thought it could go, we had a business partner who was a 10% partner with us. And he was the gray-haired one. We were in our 20s, and he came on board, or maybe early 30s, I think it was. Wasn't it, Pete? I think it's that. But we asked Bill to come on board to really help and advise us and help us see the big picture. Bill was an attorney who had actually created the the legislation for the Small Business Administration in Washington, D.C. back in the 50s. So one of the things that Bill would come and say, well, how's it going? And we'd show him the numbers, and he said, really, you guys? I mean, this isn't even a very productive hobby. You guys are talent. Why don't you go get a real job? Great advisor, right? Thanks a lot, very much. And we said, no. Don't worry about it. We got this plan. These things are coming together. In the next 3 months, we think we're going to have a breakthrough with that. 3 months later, he'd come in. So how's it going, you guys? We'd show him our performance, and he'd say, really, you guys? Come on. That's what you said 3 months ago. And this is what happened. I think it was about a year and a half of every 3 months kind of reviewing and realizing we hadn't gotten to where we wanted to go. I mean, there I was a father with a couple of kids, and Pete had left his work in the area of promotion and marketing to work with me. We were trying to build it. We were excited about this. We could see the future. And oh my gosh, our performance wasn't the realization of what we really believed was possible. This is where the concept of being able to stick to it really matters. And to acquire the habit of success means not that you've achieved it, but that you're making progressive realization on a worthy ideal. And so that's what we were recognizing. We were recognizing we were making progress. And yes, you could see catastrophic failure after catastrophic failure, Wendy, and when a person bets the house and mortgages it and everything and loses it, it's hard to get excited about the promise of a big future coming about. And sometimes what we need to do is scale our goals, not to give up on our dreams, but to scale our goals to say, okay, where can I get to on the trajectory of this ideal future? What's a worthy ideal? What are the steps that I can take in the direction of that? And very often it will be things like what I did with learning strategies. I had built the business for several years as a consulting firm, and my business partner went to get a real job at one of the companies we had been consulting with. And there I was, I said, I really want to build this. Pete joined me, and we grew it into an international business. We sell our products in 185 countries. It's been a remarkable ride. It's over 35 years old now that we've been doing this. It's a wonderful thing, and it was on our hearts to really do this work. It was in us to stay with it, regardless of what it was that may have happened. There are hard times and there are wonderful times, but always it's kind of like Stuart Emery was saying in that recording I played earlier. It's living a meaningful life. And if you know, it's not just for the big score, but it's for the meaning of your life coming into full expression, then stay with it. Take heart and realize there are the resources. If not inside of that seed, then the seed will be a blueprint to attract the resources and organize them in a way through you for your fullest expression. And with that, I'm going to turn to Pete. Next time you see me, we're going to start with part 2 of today's program. Are you ready to discover your superpowers? They're in you. That's what we're going to be getting at. I'm going to reveal the true power of your non-conscious mind very soon. See you in just a little while.